Good afternoon. My name is Jeff Farhol. I'm the Commercial Excellence Director for the Americas. You might be asking what commercial excellence is. Well, we provide a lot of behind-the-scenes support to try and make your relationship with Booking as successful as possible. So when you think about things like product optimization and performance, promotional campaigns, even how you work with us, a lot of those things are things that we work on in collaboration with folks like Hein on the pricing team, other product teams in Amsterdam, and then all of our wonderful account managers. So your next question is probably, well, why are you introducing Pricing Explained, right? I've spent a lot of time in the industry. I've been at Booking for a couple of years now. And before that, I worked at a number of other OTAs. I've worked at suppliers. I've worked on a lot of verticals. Apologies to any cruise people who might have snuck in, because I have not worked in the cruise business. I can't help you there. But during that time, I've seen pricing and pricing strategy with the OTAs evolve. It started off as purely a demand play. It was all about just get me another customer, right? Almost an additional marketing arm, if you will. It's become much more of a strategic partnership. And that's what we're doing here at Booking, right? Sharing performance and incrementality data, enabling you to be very targeted in looking at different customer segments, folks that you're interested in getting that maybe you can't get in other channels. And even just working with and understanding your strategy and how can we help you be successful, how can we help you grow your business by using Booking.com, right? So today we're going to talk a little bit about pricing from the Booking.com perspective. We know that it's complicated, it's nuanced. You all have your specific strategies. They tie into your business strategy. It's affected by things like market conditions, economic conditions, seasonality, competitors, new competitors, old competitors doing different things. And we need to be there to help support you through those things, right? On the Booking side, we look at pricing from both the traveler and the partner perspective. And we know that we need to balance those two things, right? You've heard us talk throughout the day a number of times about the balance and the customer-centric culture that we have, right? Customers on both sides of the ecosystem. And both sides are important. But that balance can have some natural conflict. So we're going to need a whole lot of the Booking grease that Fiona introduced this morning. I'm very excited to give that a try. On the traveler side, they're looking for things like competitive, compelling, transparent pricing, right? They want to understand what they're getting. By show of hands, how many of you have ever booked a price that you didn't find compelling or you didn't really understand what you were getting? Anybody? I hope those worked out. The good news is not a lot of you have done it, and there's a reason for that, right? You want to know what you're getting. You want to feel like you're getting a good value. You want it to make sense for you, right? On the partner side, you want us to support your strategy, right? So that could be related to ADR. That could be getting more heads in beds. That could be targeting specific customers, right? So very specific heads in beds, or any combination of those types of things, right? But it's important that we figure out how we can help support that strategy. So today, Hein's going to take you through some of the aspects of our global pricing programs. He's going to talk a little bit about how we determine value. He's going to share some product updates and some really interesting things that are going on at Booking. But we also know that in addition to global programs, we need to be regionally relevant, right? That there are things that we need to support with you guys that might apply to Mexico and not Brazil, might apply to Mexico and Poland and Japan and nowhere else in the world, right? But we know that they're important to you, and in many cases, they're important to our travelers. So I'm going to make you move a little bit, just for a second. Delia teed this up really nicely this morning, so we won't make you stand up, but we'll make you raise your hand. How many of you here would like to see Booking launch packaging functionality and the ability to distribute package rates? Quite a few. Yeah. Quite a few. Oh, and I got 2 hands, so that's good. Good, because you're going to be tested on that later. How many of you would like to see us do more with resorts and content and merchandising and pricing? A lot again. Not surprising. Yeah, it's great. And finally, how many of you would like to see us provide more flexibility on things like country rates, where you can be more targeted? Wow, I'm getting lots of 2 hands now. I feel like I'm at an American football game and it's a touchdown. But you can see that there's a lot of interest, right? And a lot of folks raise their hands multiple times. A lot of folks raise both hands multiple times. That's great. Some folks not as much, but maybe you have a more specific strategy that you're going after, right? More targeted. It just shows, we're not surprised by that. It shows that pricing is nuanced and complicated, and we get that. So I'm going to turn it over to Hein, let him talk a little bit about some of our global programs, and keep your phones out because we will ask you to be a little bit interactive as we go through this. Hein, over to you.
Thanks, Jeff, and welcome everyone. My name is Hein. I'm a Director of Product Marketing at Booking.com, based in Amsterdam. And me and my teams are responsible for all our pricing programs and visibility programs. What we're trying to do is really strike that balance between the partner element at one side of the marketplace and the travelers on the other side. And we know it's nuanced and it's complex. But what I'm trying to show you this session is go into detail in terms of how we look at it from Booking.com, but through a partner's lens. We all know that pricing is one of the key drivers of performance. We know that it directly correlates with conversion. Increasing a discount drives more performance. But is that the right investment? That is very complex to do, because in the end, it all comes down to the right price to the right customer at the right time. But that's complex, especially in your ecosystem where you have to deal with various different functions, different channels, distribution channels, and everything is constantly moving. So it's always trying to find and strike that balance. The way we look at performance at Booking.com, before we go straight into the pricing topic, and I really want to take a step back, is I really want to leave you with 3 key pillars, the way we look at performance. So the first pillar is around demand foundations, or foundations as we call them. It really helps you to make sure that the way you set up on Booking.com makes you to get your fair share of bookings. And what does this mean? It means that you need to look at what is the demand characteristics that you see on our platform, because they might be different from some of the other OTAs. And you need to make sure that the way you show up actually match those characteristics and those demand patterns. So what am I talking about? I'm talking about having your content in order, and that's about specific room differentiation, about how you show up. It's about availability, it's about payments, but it's also about targeting those specific guests and having the right content for them. Also, you need to think about programs that have been communicated earlier around the sustainability program, also the Travel Proud program. These are specific guests that are looking for a specific type of information, and having that content on Booking.com helps them to convert and find what they're looking for. So this is the part where I think a lot of the components that needs to be in the foundations. And the reason why it's so important is that any investment that you make in the foundations have a positive knock-on effect on everything that you do on pricing. So if you make investments and you increase your content score, it will make sure that your Genius program, your preferred program, actually performs even better. So having an understanding that you should not just set this up, leave it alone, and never look back. This is something that you need to continuously look at and make sure that you are still showing up in the best way possible. The second category is really standing out versus competition. This is typically what partners expect when we're talking about pricing, and where you see most of the visibility and pricing programs. This is logical. This is really what you're looking at. If the foundations are set, how do you then show up, and what is your level of competitiveness in terms of against your direct competitors? And the last part, which is guest feedback, is a very important component that often is overlooked. This is one component, obviously, as part of our ranking algorithm, that we look at how do we see how customers actually, what is the reviews that they give you. And this is also directly, we see a correlation with conversion rate. So obviously, partners with higher score will see better performance on Booking.com. But it's also another thing. It's also a key direct feedback loop that guests give to you. So if you think about the entire package, and we talked about what price is one component of that overall value proposition, but it is the content, it's the specific room that they've selected, perhaps a higher room type, but it's also then the final policy, the way they can pay, it's also the final price. So that total package puts a certain expectations in the head of the customer. How they receive it, did it meet their expectations or not? This is something that you really can identify from these guest reviews. So this is a great feedback loop to look at those specific audiences, how they react to your overall value proposition and how you show up on Booking.com, and to be able to go back to either the foundations or your competitiveness and make adjustments. So this is very holistically how we think a partner should look at your performance on Booking.com. If I take it a little bit more specific to pricing, there's a few specific products that you should be mindful of. Apologies, many of those probably you are aware. At least I assume that many of our account managers do a very good job in explaining this, but still, very good, I think, to touch base on this. In the foundations, this is about having your base rate set up properly. And this means a combination of non-refundable rates and free cancellation. Free cancellation obviously is something that we see a lot of guests are looking for, and that means it's one of the most used filters on our platform. But it's a combination of the two that is actually driving that additional performance. Because we see that if you set it up in the right way, with the right delta price difference between these two, what we see is that those partners get higher visibility, more bookings, and less cancellations. So that is a very important baseline. And the second category is where we're looking at more specific demand patterns, where your specific audiences in terms of how you show up to them. So this is about families. It's about length of stay. Do you offer something different if somebody wants to stay more than a week or more than a month? And again, if your competitor is doing this, but you are not, then it is perhaps creating some friction, and actually you're losing out on what we believe is the fair share of demand that you should get. Occupancy-based pricing, again, take occupancy as an example, or early booker rates. This is all that's in the foundations. If you then go into the second the pillar that I was explaining, we have a proactive category of products and a reactive one. The proactive are these programs that really help you to get sustained performance over an extended period of time. And the reactive ones are those that actually you can help to fix certain occupancy gaps in those times that you really need it. Within the proactive category, we have the premium programs that have certain eligibility criteria. That means that not everyone can actually participate. And why is because we do a lot of investment in these programs, and we really make sure that the partners who participate get true value from these products. The second category is customer targeting, and this is like the campaign deals and targeted rates like mobile rates and country rates. You see two different colors on the screen, so everything light blue-ish, I don't know what the color is, booking blue, or the other one is also perhaps. But everything on the left, basically, these are value related, so this is like giving you an additional value or discount. The dark blue are the ones that basically either comes at an additional cost from a commission or from marketing budget. And in the reactive one, you have the deep deals, such as Black Friday, or where you can go much deeper in terms of like a specific gap that you have for upcoming weekend or something else. And you can really make sure that you fill that occupancy gap immediately. As well as portfolio deals and sponsored ads. Obviously, we had a full session just previously on this topic, so I assume everyone's fully aware of how that works. Includes the second price bid auction, something I'm not sure if everyone still remembers. But these are the programs that you should, that probably everyone is aware of. If not, please reach out to your account manager. They can very much help you with trying to determine what the right thing is. I think we'll go for some interaction.
All right, phones out. You do need to re-scan this because we have a different Slido for each session, so that's good. Lots of phones, great. All right, so the question we're going to ask you is about genius and incrementality. Do you see our genius travelers as an incremental traveler audience for your business? Is it yes, these folks are all new? Is it so-so, some are incremental, some are not? Or is it no, that I would not attract most of these travelers, or I would attract, sorry, most of these travelers anyway? Or 4 is just, I'm not really sure, I don't know. So we're hovering between these folks are new, and I wouldn't get them otherwise, and so-so, that some are new and some maybe are not. We're up to 100 responses, so that's pretty good. Yep,
We're
making a little change
seeing
here.
a switch.
Little switch.
So is winning.
So what you're saying is at least some, if not most of these customers are new, which is great.
Yeah, I think what is very interesting for me is the word incrementality. I think I've been hearing this quite a bit for several of the sessions. And specifically in regards to this specific question, there's a lot of different ways how you can look at incrementality. So what I wanted to give you some examples in terms of like 3 key ways to look at incrementality. One, what I think is very interesting data point is the number 3%. We've done a big audience overlap analysis, basically with one of our biggest chains. And what we looked at is the audiences that are booking their properties on Booking.com, what percentage of those customers did also book direct or in their loyalty base or in their systems. And what we see is that there's only a 3% overlap between these audiences, the people that book on Booking.com through their properties and the ones that they book direct or through their paid channels. So only 3%, that means that there's almost no cannibalization. And it's very much, in total, the overall Booking.com audience is truly incremental. This is aside from Genius, which is targeting even a specific guest. But I think it's very important to note that a lot of these guests go to Booking.com. Oh, this already went through. The second data point that I wanted to leave you with is the amount of reservation of these guests that are made on a Genius rate. What percentage of those guests actually come direct to Booking.com? And we see that the vast majority of those guests have Booking.com as the first stop. That's where they start their search. So typically they would have the app installed, or they would just type in Booking.com, but they would go straight to Booking.com. And basically it means that you're not competing, or we are not competing for that same customer. So also if you're looking at paid marketing, we're not in the same, trying to fish in the same pond and trying to find that same customer. This number actually goes even up if you go to level 2 or level 3, this goes above 80%. And the third part is when we're looking at product incrementality. There's another way of looking at incrementality, or audience incrementality. So how do they react to the specific promotions that you're offering? And I think this is the way to simply explain this, is that when you have, let's say, 10 bookings come on a Genius rate, what percentage or how many of those customers would have booked anyways? So if you would not have given that discount, would they have booked your property? And are you actually reducing your ADR, and actually a lot of those guests would have booked, then this product would not make sense. Then it purely comes at a cost, but there's not a lot of incremental gain, so the return on investment is very low. So what we see is that when we do measurements, we see that on a global average, partners that are participating in Genius get an overall performance uplift on Booking.com of 45%. So if, for instance, they would have a baseline performance of 100, by joining Genius, they will get to 145 total performance. In reality, this is actually a little bit higher than this, but again, this is what I'm allowed to say. But I think what is interesting is that these are different ways how you can look at incrementality. But incrementality, from a partner perspective, everyone is looking for this concept or the additional performance here you can drive by making a certain pricing action or a certain decision to join a program or to make a decision. But it's actually very difficult. The reason why it's difficult is because, one, the first thing is really difficult to isolate the impact. We talked about how complex this industry is and how many factors there are at play. There's internal factors about constant changes that you're making in your pricing decisions. There's other things like seasonality, and there's competitors that are making changes as well. So as you're making changes, even if you would not and stop making any changes, your competitors are changing. So the dynamics are constantly changing. That makes it very difficult to isolate the impact of one of the decisions that you're making. The second part is a little bit technical, but there is no counterfactual. So there is no alternative world where you did not make that change. You cannot do a proper experiment. Even for properties that are very large and have thousands of properties, still this is very difficult. So even if they would say, I would take half of my properties and make a decision and the other ones not, still it's very difficult because you're not going to have the statistical power to really get to it. You might be able to get in a very extended period of time, but it's very complex. And for most of our partners, this is very difficult to get. So rather than just giving you a problem, what are we doing about this? So Booking.com, I think, is very uniquely placed to solve this. One, because, and I think many people have talked about this, we are a big believer of data. We do constant experimentation. We have thousands concurrent experiments running every single day. We have 1,500 engineers. We have 1.5 billion events being tracked every second through real-life pipelines. And it allows us to do, we're very advanced in this experimentation. So let me give you an example of what a very simple experiment would look like, where you have a base, one side of the version of the experience that customers see, and a variant, where we make only one intervention. So when we talked about isolating the impact of one decision, this decision that we took is we give one small banner, 19% off, and we've added it into the experience. What we're going to do is that because we have a lot of power, we have millions of customers coming in every day, we can actually detect what is the impact of adding that banner, and do we see better conversion, do we see better, like, lower cancellations, what is the effectiveness of this, and we can make an informed decision based on a lot of that data. What is good about this is we can make very good decisions, and we can really make sure that the products that we build are proven and are generally driving the experience that we're looking for. The challenge, however, this works very well at a platform level. So if you want to make decisions from a Booking.com perspective, this works. Because we basically say, yes, then everyone will get this badge, and then we're clear, and we make it full on. But this doesn't give the perspective of an individual partner. We basically just look at the entire platform as one. So what our data engineers have been working on the last 2 years is coming up with a new methodology to go much deeper into this topic and really bring these type of insights to you as an individual partner. And this is truly unique, and we think unique in the industry. So what we're now able to do is we're able to go much deeper into specific experiments, and we can look at specific products and specific characteristics of partners, and we can isolate the impact for you as an individual partner. So this is what the blue dots should try to show. What does this mean? It means that we're now able to formulate and to give you insights on the additional performance that are driven by these pricing products. That means that we're now able to say, rather than this is your total performance on Booking.com, and you have an expectation or you think, you have a belief that this product is working, we can actually give you a very detailed insight and an accurate estimation on what we think the true effectiveness of this product is. So what you see in the yellow highlighted area, this is what we believe that's the effect truly because of this product, why you activated this product. This is not the number of bookings on the product. This is truly the additional performance that is coming from this product. We are able to do this in additional room nights, and we're able to do this in additional revenue. And when we talk about revenue, we also take into account the cost of the product. So obviously we know Genius comes at a cost. You have to offer discounts. We take these costs into account when we give you the final additional revenue that is being generated, or for preferred, we take into account the cost of the commission that you have to pay in order to participate. So this truly reflects and gives you an insight on the return on investment from participating in these programs. So let's make this real. Let's imagine you are a beach resort property in Cancun, 90 rooms, average daily rate of about $300 US. And what we are now able to show you is that because you've joined perhaps Genius in the last 5 months, what we can now show you is that of your total performance, which is 18,000 room nights on Booking.com, we can see that of those 18,000, 7.7 thousand actually were coming due to the fact that you were participating in Genius. We can also give that insight from a revenue perspective, again, taking into account the cost of the discounts. This really helps partners to make better decisions, but this is not just you as an individual partner. We can take the same data and we can actually look at what is the performance of your competition set. So some of your competition is also participating in the program. What we know is that these products do not work exactly the same everywhere globally. So to make it much more relevant, we can actually aggregate and look at the relative uplift that you are getting from participating in these programs and compare it versus your competition set. So it gives you a good indication on what you can expect from participating in it, but also gives you opportunity in saying like, hey, how am I doing versus my competitor set? But I think what's very important is that we're going to be very transparent with this. Vast majority of partners will benefit from these programs. That is what we're optimizing for. We're doing a lot of investments in really making sure that these products drive value for you. And that's also below the line, and that means after taking into account the cost of these products. But there's a very small fraction, less than 1%, where based on the experiment data that we have and the vast like data science, et cetera, models that we've built, we cannot detect an incremental performance. And we will be honest about this. We will share this information with you to make sure that, see what we can do to fix this. One, what we see in a lot of cases, there's something that we can fix based on configuration. Perhaps the product is not set up in the right way. Or look at alternative products, or perhaps finally switch off the product. If this product is not delivering the value that we think it should, we should recommend to switch this off. And I think it's very important that we're going to be open and we're really working with you as partners, and I think this is a true testimony of this. Then, when we look at this data, we can identify a few drivers of performance that are basically making up and giving that drive up or down these performance that you can see from these products. The first one is, what is your base conversion? And that actually links back to my previous story around the foundations. So everything that you do that sets yourself up for success by getting the fair share of demand on our platform, every investment that you do will have a positive knock-on effect on the performance of these products. Secondly, we see that the size of the audience that you target is obviously impacting the total return on investment or the performance that you can expect from these products. Thirdly, it's how you're showing up today relative to your comp set. So how you're doing already for this audience. So if you're talking about mobile rates, it's about what is your current performance, how good are you doing already before switching on mobile rates. And it's a very good indication in terms of like what opportunity is there. And then the last one is basically the price elasticity of this audience, but also the specific promotion. So we're investing a lot of money into Genius and making that a very holistic narrative towards consumers. And what we see is that the way they respond to that discount is very effective. And we see that coming back in terms of the return on investment that partners can see by participating. These are some examples of things that you can do within the extranet that can give you insights in terms of making these changes. It's about the basics around visibility, factors that are important in terms of demand or the market audience, so how you're doing versus the area, and that gives you an indication on, basically the relative visibility they have for these audiences. I want to now move to the final topic, and it's around the pricing updates. Unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to resolve all of the needs. I saw a lot of hands coming up in the audience. By the way, this is not the only time I'm hearing these invites. I think many of you have also been reaching out to either your account managers, etc. So these things are on the list. We are looking at this. I cannot guarantee you when or how we're going to resolve it, but it's definitely on the agenda for us to look at. But some of the updates that I wanted to be talking about, first of all, is some flexibility that we have been adding, and it's already been released earlier this year. So we have now country rates that is much more flexible than it was before. So now you're able to do much more targeting on specific stay dates, specific rate plans, and specific rooms. You can do much more length of stay and book window. And this allows you to do much more catering for the specific pricing strategy that you have. Does this resolve the specific POS at rate plan level? No, not yet. We will be looking at this, but this is something that is already live and you can use today. And we are getting a lot of positive feedback from partners. Secondly, it's not about discounting alone. It's also about how do we help you grow ADR. So one of the things that I think is very interesting and one of the product teams have been working on is actually upsell. So this is not about cheaper prices, but this is really about how do you make sure that the content and the rooms and the inventory that you have show up in the right way. So we have a tool called the Room Differentiator tool that allows us to identify the areas that we believe are gaps in your content, and that can truly identify and can differentiate the value propositions between these different rooms and make sure that when guests look at the different room options, they have a true understanding of what the value is they're getting when they see these different options. And what we see is that when partners go through this process, we see a 50% increase in conversion for those guests that are being offered this upsell. as I was preparing these slides, we saw that this property still has some room for optimization. We see the same photo for all three upgrades, even though the room size is increasing. So some room for optimization. But I think this goes back to this foundation. So the investments that you make in the foundations, in terms of your content, how you differentiate, how you show up, are truly will pay off across the board. And then the last one is value adds. This is a product in which it allows you to offer paid services and include them in the rate. So what it allows you to do, it allows you to, for instance, add food or beverages or wellness services or discounts or specific credits that you can offer. And you can include them in the rate. And what we will do is we'll make sure that this is properly being shown to guests, and they have a good understanding of why they're paying a higher price and what they're getting. So these are some free examples of things that are live today. It's not about like what's coming. This is live today, so you can already use them. So if you have any questions, please reach out to your local account team, and they will be happy to help you. Hand it back to Jeff.
Yeah, so lots of good stuff there. We hope that you've already had the opportunity to leverage some of the product updates, perhaps use some of the incrementality data. It's all really great stuff, and it shows how seriously we take supporting your pricing strategy and how much we want to work with you as a strategic partner when it comes to pricing, right? Globally scalable programs are very important. They bring customers from all around the globe to Cancun and to Lima and to Bogota. But we also know that there's still opportunity for us to do things that are regionally impactful. So with that, get your phones out one more time. We're going to throw one more Slido at you. Which of these do you think should be the next big thing on our pricing products roadmaps? Is it packaging and package rates? Is it doing more for resorts? And that could be a number of things like we mentioned earlier. Or is it country rates and doing more around flexibility and setting them up as a rate plan, thinking differently about how we do that? It appears we have let's see, we're at 108 responses. It appears we have a runaway winner. They're still coming in. Okay, packaging and package rates. So I don't think we're surprised by that, based on the conversations and the feedback that we've gotten through all of your account managers. We know it's important, and it's important in a lot of places around the world. So it is something that, as Hein mentioned, we'll be focusing on. No major announcements to make at this point, as much as it would be fun to do so. But it is something that's important and will be on our roadmaps. So with that, I want to say thank you for attending and participating in the Pricing Explained session. But let me just say again, thank you, and thank you to Hein for all his expertise. And enjoy the rest of today and this evening.